we are on July the 11th in the year of our Lord 2026. That would be 7/11/26. Okay, let's jump over here to Murtek on Rumble because we have some great stuff for you tonight. We click on the Rumble link here. Take us over here to my Rumble channel. This is the live stream we're going over, episode 1975. Let's get into this, and let me to my Rumble. How's that? Hi, Viper Senior. Where we go one, we go all. All right, nice to see you online. Let me go ahead and close that out. I'll get back with you momentarily. Let me click the Show More button to expand out the description box. We have information from American Center for Law and Justice, Dennis Michael Lynch, Doug in Exile, and Robert Gouveia. But before we get into that, I do need to give some shout outs to JGK USA, just started following my channel. Kerwin3131 just started following my channel. Vicky7557 just started following my channel. And Love Teaching just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1974. Debbie BS and Viper Senior commented on my episode 1974. Debbie BS commented on my extra 756C. Debbie BS commented on my extra 757A. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 757B. And hey, I imagine Jude. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 757C. Good night, sweetie. All right, so let me give this a thumbs up. Thank you very much, folks, for reposting my videos and your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. And here's a comment from Viper Senior. Good evening, fellow patriots. Where we go one, we go all. Rumble number 3 tonight. Thank you, Viper Senior. Okay, let's get back up here. And let's see what. First, I got a bonus. Okay, is this an example of fraud in the justice system? Now, this was a situation where this was in my daily news wrap up last night. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I don't sit up all night and watch that. I watch it, and then I'll fall asleep while it's on. But I happened to wake up last night. And this particular part from And We Know was on. And I thought, man, this is astounding. I'm going to have to share it with you tonight in case you didn't see it last night. So let's go ahead and jump into this.
In Democrat Hennepin County, Minnesota, reverses the conviction of Abdifa Yusuf.
At the August trial for Abdi Fattah Yusuf, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Yusuf and his wife, Lol Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant, or PCA, scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Yusuf, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong.
It's reversing or overturning a jury's verdict.
Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who's not affiliated with this case, reviewed the decision and analyzed it for KARE 11 News. He says Judge West ruled that the state's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that she believed the state did not rule out other reasonable inferences.
That, in fact, there could have been other reasonable theories other than guilt in this case. That's what it comes down to.
Despite the ruling, even Judge West wrote that she is troubled by the manner in which fraud was able to be perpetuated at Promise Health.
I was stunned.
State Representative Kristen Robbins, chair of the House Fraud Prevention and State Oversight Committee, says she's now reviewing if any state laws need to be tightened.
We want to strengthen state law so that we can get prosecutions out of these cases, because clearly a jury thought he was guilty.
Jurors in the case can't believe the decision.
I am shocked. I'm shocked based off of all of the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the said evidence. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever.
Sex trafficking, drug trafficking, child...
Okay. Democrat Hennepin County, Minnesota, reversed.
There you have it. Isn't that amazing? That a jury found them guilty of fraud. They had their daycare center set up at a mailbox. Okay, there was no daycare center, and the judge overturned the verdict. I mean, what's the point of even having a jury trial if the judge's going to just overturn the verdict? If this isn't one of those WTF moments, I don't know what the hell is. Now, folks, I've been talking about this ever since I've been online. That Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us back in 1961 about the military-industrial complex, which is the deep state. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that freaking amazing that can happen? Unbelievable. All right. Well, let's jump down here and let's see what American Center for Law and Justice has. Sekulow. Iran plot. Air Force One mysteriously deepens after Air Force One mystery deepens after new report. Okay, well, let's check this out and see what that's all about.
Jay, but this is a big story that came out. It was an exclusive from the Wall Street Journal. It dropped last night, and we're going to talk about it because I think it adds a layer to the whole mystery that's been going on around the plane change with the Air Force One transiting back to the United States after the NATO summit in Turkey. There's a lot of information coming out, a lot of questions from reporters. Why did we change planes? Why are we on the old Air Force One? Why'd you make us lower our shades before we took off? Things of that nature. But now we're finding out that Israel warned the United States that they had intel, and they gave it over to the U.S., that there is a fresh Iranian plan to assassinate President Trump. We know that he has been a target by the Iranians since the death of Qasem Soleimani. They vowed revenge against him, against our colleague Mike Pompeo, and many other former Trump administration officials from the first term. They were targeting them. And we also know that this sort of a plan with the new leadership in Iran would also directly violate the Memorandum of Understanding. It gives us a little bit more understanding of why the president seemed so dissatisfied, displeased with the Iranians in Turkey a few days ago when he had said, why, Mr. President, did you say that they were great, they were easier to work with, much more rational, and now you're saying that they're horrible. He said, I got to know them. Well, maybe he also got to know that they are still planning on taking him out. That is still an objective of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Not that it seems like it matters at this point, but remember, these leaders had signed on in the Memorandum of Understanding to point 2 that says the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. I think trying to assassinate the President of the United States of America would be a little bit in conflict with that point 2 with the MOU. So when the president says in his mind it's dead, I think we have a little bit more understanding why now. And we are going to talk about in the next segment that mystery surrounding Air Force One. When you layer it with this new plan that we're learning of Iran still wanting to assassinate the president of the United States.
Now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I would find it hard to negotiate with a group of people that are wanting to kill me and expect them to be honest with me and go along with the agreement. Excuse me, I just sneezed. All right, just jumped out there. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, maybe there was a plane change for a reason. We're going to get to that. But I also want to hear from you. Does it surprise you that as far as they had come in the talks, that this was still an objective of the Iranians to kill the president of the United States of America? Give me a call, 1-800-684-3110. That's 1-800-684-3110 to talk to me and Logan on air. He'll be joining me in the next segment. But folks, also, we are wrapping up Independence Week here at the ACLJ. We had a wonderful celebration over the weekend, celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, of the Declaration
let me
of
get it past
Gifts,
this.
60th birthday.
In the war between Washington and Iran. Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against your
I have a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list.
This all comes as crowds gathered for the funeral of the late Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. Some mourners pictured holding a banner that read, "Trump, we will kill you."
And then, of course, there are smaller ones people are carrying, which read, "Kill Trump."
It's a very dangerous profession. No, I'm number one on the kill list for Iran.
Iran has for years vowed to retaliate against Trump for the drone strike that killed top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani back in 2020.
The conflict has prompted extra security measures for President Trump in an unexpected switch. He left the NATO summit in Turkey this week in the old Air Force One, as its replacement, gifted by the government of Qatar, was sent out of the region without him.
Leaders, they want to take out the U.S. leader, me. I'm on every list. I saw things this morning. I'm on every single one of their lists. And so far, I guess I've been a little bit lucky.
President Trump has had more plots against him than any American president in our history. And that's both from radical leftists domestically, and it's also from overseas threats. And principally, it's because the president has littered the Middle East with terrorists and terrorist enablers that he has eliminated, with names like Soleimani and Khamenei and Ahmadinejad and al-Baghdadi. The president transformed the Middle East by taking out the worst of the worst.
For the Iranians, it hardly seems to be bad manners to be threatening to kill President Trump. They burnt a big effigy of him at that funeral yesterday, made out of Legos of all things. It's really kind of crazy.
The president just takes it in stride because he's done the right thing for the American people. He knows there are risks, and he just keeps plunging ahead.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Will Haynes here, and joined by Logan. I switched seats. It's fun. It's Musical Chair Friday.
Yeah, I said, get out of chair one.
Yeah, that's reserved for Logan.
That's how I do that. I say, you can't sit there.
The tension between us during a break when he's like, get out of my seat, it's wild, folks. Yeah. You wouldn't believe it. But here we are.
Here we are. 1-800-684-3110 to get on the air today. And Will, it looks like the top story we were talking about is this threat. And look, the threat of President Trump's life is something that he seems to, after being, had multiple assassination attempts and everything that we see in the news right now, obviously the currently the Tyler Robinson hearing happening right now, you think it would be something that would come off a bit more even serious, but the way President Trump talks about it does feel weirdly disarming. But maybe that is dealing with the fact that you have to understand that the reality is that you are threat number one in the world.
That's right. And I think we should play this. It's actually bite 2 from our list, where a reporter was directly asking about a threat to Air Force One. Remember, they flew over on the new Air Force One. That is the one that was widely showcased at the America 250. It did a flyover. It has the red, white, and blue color scheme, which is a departure from the kind of baby blue color scheme that is historically with Air Force One. And what was, they switch planes all the time. There's more than one of the old style Air Force Ones. There's always a backup in case if something happens, right? It's less noticeable when the colors are the same of the plane. This is a different aircraft than they flew over on, and it's clear for everyone to see that you're walking onto a different plane.
An older model, if you will.
You went down to an older model 747 instead of the new one, as well as the livery of it. The paint scheme is completely different. So it caused reporters to ask questions about it. And specifically, the border of Iran and Turkey, they are neighbors. So the Iranians having a much closer strike point, if they were to want to try and do something against the president of the United States, it's a lot closer than even him being in Europe. So here's what the question was, because remember, they switched planes. There was some question about putting the shades down. Now, I've been on commercial flights all the time where they ask you, hey, lower your shades, whether it's a nighttime flight and they're wanting people to be able to sleep, or sometimes the heat. There's all sorts of different things.
I understand why it would be alarming.
But here's what we have. Bite 2, we're asked directly about a threat from Iran against Air Force One just yesterday.
Are you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force
Well, I have
One?
a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go. Right?
But was there a specific threat today?
Perhaps someday you want to change professions.
So once again, there is the president saying, I'm number one on their list. And says, if I go, you go, making a joke with the reporters that are clearly nervous, which is probably an unsettling conversation.
I'm sure every time you're, especially in international areas, not just, flying over the country.
Right.
But anytime you get on the airplane, look, I'm not a great flyer. Anytime I get on an airplane in general, I'm always concerned. But getting on an airplane with the president of the United States in an active war that's happening right now, when he just called a bunch of people who he had a ceasefire with, scum, and was going after them, and all of those things happening, clearly, that you're taking an extra step of risk.
Well,
okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. This will be in my daily news wrap-up, but I want to move on. Okay, let me click the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. This is the video I shared with you. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. And Viper Senior here, read his chats. He's got some good information in there. Good thoughts. Other people can join in. Don't be bashful. All right, let's see what Dennis Michael Lynch has to say. This was something that I have a Facebook group called America United, and this is something that someone posted on my Facebook group, and I wanted to share this with you. Dennis Michael Lynch, the $7 million EBT scam. Although, they've found this out, and they'll probably try to prosecute, but then, what the frick difference does it make? The judge will just overturn it if they're found guilty. But let's see what they have to say here.
You hear this scam. So the Trump administration has said that they are going to start the denaturalization process for about 200 to 300 immigrants every month starting in January. My hope is that they start with Ilhan Omar and Mayor Mamdani. And basically what winds up happening is that they look back on your paperwork to see whether or not you were fraudulent in any of your applications. Also, if you've committed some serious crimes here in the United States, you can also be denaturalized. Well, I would like number 3 and 4 to be these 2 Haitian men who have been scumbagging United States citizens. $7 million these 2 clowns stole. Now, these are 2 guys who probably can't spell their own name or let alone write it in English. But they set up stores, grocery stores. One of them was 150 square feet, the other one 500 square feet. To put that into perspective, a bathroom is about 150 square feet, okay? And your normal grocer, the one where you go shopping and I go shopping for our food, is usually anywhere between 15,000 to 25,000 square feet with all the aisles. Now, the way EBT works, or the SNAP program, food stamps, is you got a card, you go in, you put it, you got your fruits and vegetables, and instead of money being debited from your bank account, because you have no money, it gets debited from the state who pays for your food. The average grocer, going back to the big one with all the aisles that you use and I use, in this one particular town, they were processing about 80 to 85,000 worth of SNAP benefits every single month. These 2 Haitians with the 2 little closet stores with nothing but a cash register and a couple of little food items, including ones that were stolen. These food items were supposed to be going overseas for children who are starving, but somehow these guys got on it. They were processing $100,000 to $500,000 per month. So you got a grocer who is doing $85,000, and these 2 scam artists are doing $100,000 to $500,000. And basically what's happening is Mrs. Black is walking in with her EBT card, and she's giving it to them. And instead of walking out with food, she runs $200 worth of food, and the Haitians give her $100 back. She's scamming us for $100, and of course, the 2 Haitians are taking their $100 profit. They did this up to $7 million. How did they get away with this for so long? Well, the great news is that the Department of Justice has now cracked down on them, and we got them, and we're going to shut them down. But you and I know this is happening across the country. Let's crack down on this crap. We shouldn't be stolen from. Those SNAP benefits are for people who can't eat, and they're stealing from us. Send these 2 scumbags back to Haiti, Put them up on the podium, President Trump, and let everybody see what they did to America. We're done with this. Wait until you hear this scam.
Jessica Tarloff, like all Democrats, comes out with her long list of excuses for why she supported Graham Plattner. And now suddenly they all come to find Jesus. Welcome to Doug in Exile. Here's Jessica Tarloff discrediting herself just by moving her mouth as usual.
It wasn't all fine and good, but there was also something they were respecting the democratic process, and people went to vote for the primary candidate, understanding who Graham Plattner was, not the totality of it.
Still the same guy.
Well, it is a little bit different when you have a credible allegation of sexual assault, and I would just call it rape. I understand maybe it's more PC to say sexual allegation, sexual assault allegation. Those are different things, but
it's not a different thing. She's trying to say the new thing that came out against him is different than the old thing that came out against him with a Republican political activist that was dating him. The previous one said that he broke into her room, pushed her against a wall, was very aggro in the way he touched her. The new one, they had her testimony, but the New York Times buried it. But word went out with their texts to a point that journalists could find it months ago. And Jessica Tarloff knew about the Nazi tattoo.
This should not be cast as a conversation about what the Democratic Party wants. Bernie Sanders, it wants him out too. It is everybody but Graham Plattner. And Bernie Sanders, as the king of the left, as the head of the DSA, has said it's time to go, and spoke to him in a personal call. My expectation is that he will go. That will kick off the process, and there will be a couple weeks to find a new nominee. I agree, though, that he shouldn't get to hand select who comes next, and the voters should have a say in this. We went down this road in 2024 where voters did not feel like they had a say in who the nominee was.
But you were defending when they did that, when they flew in Kamala Harris, when they voted for Biden, threw out the votes for Biden, and just put in Kamala Harris without a vote. Jessica supported that too. And now they're going to do the same thing with Plattner. That's who Maine voted for, was Plattner. He should be stuck on the ballot, and they should all have to vote for him. That's where the votes went. Democrat Party's going to, because they're the ones that accused us of destroying democracy forever. And now they're going to destroy democracy by throwing out all of the votes for Plattner and just inserting someone, placing them in his place with no vote. That's how the Democrat Party rules work. Now comes the big whataboutism, where what about Trump? I'm not going to get lectured by people who follow Trump.
It's interesting. I read talking to you about how the average Democrat who I talk to, and certainly people within the larger party infrastructure, were always uncomfortable with Graham Plattner and his behaviors.
That's not true. They were not uncomfortable with Plattner. No one had more endorsements. No one had more excitement. No one raised more money than Graham Plattner. He was mainstream Democrats. Now suddenly
Isn't it amazing how they can just make shit up as they go along? And they get by with it. Except for, people like Doug in Exile and me and you sharing this information out, exposing their two-faced, double-tongue lies and propaganda.
hindsight, she's going, you know what? Everyone was kind of creeped out by the guy. Yeah, probably would have been useful to talk about that back in April instead of every single public Democrat coming out and defending him, including going into Maine and campaigning for him.
I will say, though, something that has not changed since we heard from Jenny Rassicot is that the Democrats will not be lectured by the party of Donald Trump and Ken Paxton. No, you can make the face Max Miller.
None of them are guilty of assault. None of them. None of them had a Nazi tattoo. None of them. No credible evidence. No credible. Graham Plattner has a line of credible evidence behind him of people accusing him, and every Democrat followed it and agreed with it. Trump and Paxton, nothing in the public. Nothing. I covered the Stormy Daniels stuff, the E. Jean Carroll stuff, and the Brett Kavanaugh stuff. Nowhere is there hardcore, viable, believable evidence with proof. Outside of Trump, the recording of Trump on the tape that came out in 2016, where he said you could grab a woman by the hoo-hoo, and that was a verbal thing. That's not proof of anything.
We're the bad guys that, are flipping standards or are going to be, told from on high about what good behavior is when it comes to how women are treated and, questions.
No, I am going to laugh at you, and I'm laughing at you now that you believe you guys have a standard for how women should be treated. You supported Plattner when you knew. That's why we're laughing at you. You don't have a standard. This is simply politics. Moving on to the next one. Wait, here's John Kennedy roasting Plattner.
With respect to to Mr. Plattner, he was nominated by the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party, which is in control. With respect to the new allegations or revelations about him, I, of course, was completely shocked. Who could possibly have seen this coming? It's not like there were signs or something. I tell you who saw it coming. Every American who was paying attention.
How did every American see this coming and Jessica Tarloff magically not see it? Suddenly, everyone knows they're all creeped out by it. Here's a quick word from our sponsor, Chapter. This is Pam.
Okay, while he's talking about that, it's amazing how everyone in America could see how Joe Biden couldn't complete a sentence, but yet the Democrats, until, they decided to kick his ass out. Oh, it's the best he's ever been. Oh, I can't keep up with him. He does somersaults. Unfreaking believable how they just make shit up as they go along.
Plattner's tragic turn with the Democrat Party, John Fetterman just completely roasts him here.
He gets to go away. He can go back online. He can go around doing all the kinds of things. But, the trash took itself out tonight.
The trash took itself out because Graham Plattner suspended his campaign.
Right. And now finally, people in Maine have a chance to really vote on someone that's not a piece of trash.
Yeah. You said he can go back to his life, his private life of being a jerk. Here's more shocking.
Well, I wonder why he can talk that way, call him a piece of trash. But yet, if Trump does that, it's the worst thing that could ever come out of a human being's mouth. Huh. Fetterman, wait a minute. Oh, I get it. Fetterman's a Democrat. Okay, I'm sorry. My mistake.
Shocking. Jen Psaki can't believe it.
It is an end to what has been an unpredictable, incredibly tumultuous.
No, totally predictable. It's only tumultuous because you guys pushed him down our throats.
At times fascinating simply because of the political story and ultimately deeply enraging political career for Graham Plattner.
The fascinating part of the story is that the Democrats supported him. The enraging part of the story is that you Democrats supported him even after you knew.
Enraging for all of us. And we have covered this race from the very beginning.
Yeah, so did we.
On purpose. And
we covered it more accurately than you did. And I'm a barely literate comic book artist, animator, just doing the news. I did a better job than you, who was a professional White House press secretary.
I think it's important that we don't put our heads in the sand and just project upon all of you what we think and only talk to people at a table in Washington, D.C. I think one of the most important...
You could have talked to me. You could have come talk to me, Purple Mint Patty. Wait, there's more. Newt Gingrich. What possibly could we do about this collapse in their party?
The collapse of the oldest political party in the world.
Thank God.
The Democratic Party goes all the way back to Thomas Jefferson. And what you're seeing right now is that nobody who has common sense has the courage to stand up to people who are objectively crazy.
Yeah, true. They're objectively crazy. When did Newt Gingrich become the godfather? They're objectively crazy. What happened to your voice, dude? Their Democrat Party is objectively crazy, and they don't have the leadership or the guts to stand up to their own side.
I mean, it's not like they have the wrong ideas or the wrong ideology.
Yeah, they do. Newt, don't give them that much credit. They also have the wrong ideas and the wrong ideology.
They live on a planet that doesn't exist. You start talking about seizing the means of production, which That's a great phrase if you're Vladimir Lenin.
Okay, more to come. This is Clay Travis. Plattner, Graham Plattner drops out. Now Maine is going to let 600 Democrat Party insiders pick the new candidate, replacing the guy that 156,000 people voted for, just like the party kicked Biden to the curb and replaced him with Kamala. Tell me again which party is a threat to democracy. Fact, here's E.L. Jacoby. They promised free buses. They instead gave themselves a raise. Associated Free Press, New York Council member Natasha Williams introduced a proposal that would raise council members' salaries by 18%. That's how Mondani is going to get rewarded for chasing jobs out of New York, from $148,000 to $175,000 a year. Retroactive to January, they get back pay. This is failing upwards. The bill would also raise the mayor's salary from $258,000 to $305,000 and create automatic annual pay increases of at least 2% going forward, probably to adjust for the inflation that he's going to cause in New York. And then he gets paid for it. But guys, I'm ending on a good note. So there's no despair here. The good news is their reputation is in the toilet. Watch the stats.
So look at the Kalshi prediction market and the chance that 6 House Democrats go down to defeat, lose their primary in 2026. This number has consistently, over the last week or so, been hovering 80, 90%. And when we talk about history books, the history books, right? If in fact 6 House Democrats went down to defeat in 2026, it would be by far, it would be the largest number, in a post-redistricting cycle for Democrats. And get this, over 50 years. That's why I got this.
They can lose 6 House Democrat seats. That's good news for us. So I'm hoping that happens. This will greatly destroy the Communist Party rise in the Democrat Party if this happens. If they lose, and they have to lose these 6 seats, we keep the majority, expand the majority, and communism becomes the embarrassment that it is. Not for us. It's already an embarrassment for us. It'll become an embarrassment to people like Jessica Tarloff. I'm Doug, in exile.
All right, there you have it, folks. Let me show you that this video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his YouTube channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing to me. Okay, I'm going to jump over here to my creator program stats. As you can see, all the areas are green except for total unique chatters this month. I've got 37. I need 75. So I'm right at halfway there. Okay, so if you haven't given me a chat yet this month, put something in the chat box, a hi or a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a frowny face, whatever. If you haven't put something in that chat box this month, please do so. I've got 37 unique chatters. I need 75 people that hasn't chatted with me before to give me a chat. I don't know why this is important for Rumble, but obviously it is. Last month I only needed 20. This month, for some reason, they want 75 instead of 20. So, I've got 37. I'm halfway there. Please be number 38. Get up there and give me a chat. Say hi or whatever, or whatever. That'll work. Just say whatever. Okay, let's jump back here and slide down and get to Robert Gouveia. Judge blocks Georgia election subpoena in 2025. There we go again. Okay, these judges jumping in and stopping legitimate things going on. The jury found him guilty. Jury doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They're not guilty. Okay, we're going to let them go. We're going to let them steal money from us, from the federal government, from the tax-paying people. We're going to let them steal the money and let them walk, okay? And besides that, you can't deport them, okay? Even though they were here illegally. So let's see what Robert Gouveia has to say. Judge blocks Georgia election subpoena in 2025. Judge blocks the subpoena. Amazing.
A Georgia judge now blocking a DOJ subpoena that would allow them to actually investigate what happened there back in 2020. We know that the FBI went to Georgia, Fulton County in particular, and seized pallets full of ballots to take a look at what actually happened physically on these pieces of paper. We also know that in Georgia, they deleted a bunch of the ballot images such that the only remaining evidence is, in fact, the actual ballots. And as the FBI's investigation continues, we want to flesh it out. We want to see who else was responsible for processing these ballots so that we can identify potential criminal co-conspirators who should be prosecuted and brought to justice. But unfortunately, as we've seen in this location, any efforts for any actual accountability are all blocked. And another one just came down from a Trump judge in the case of Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections versus the United States of America. And this was part of the criminal investigation. The DOJ submitted a subpoena to the grand jury. The grand jury signed off on it, and the judge quashed it and said, you can't actually do your job, which is to investigate potential crimes. And so the judge in this one, surprisingly, is a Trump judge. Guy's name is William M. Ray. He was appointed and assumed office by the president back in 2018. And now he's saying all of this is overbroad and I'm not going to allow it to happen. He exists in the Northern District of Georgia. And we've got a brief summary of what happened here, courtesy of Brett Bayer's special report explaining the quick overview.
I'm just curious as to what his reasoning is that would not allow the Department of Justice to review the ballots. Okay? You know, this was another one of those situations where they closed the counting down. And in Georgia is the state. Well, let me click over here to Murtech on Rumble. Let's go over here to my historical facts page. Okay, and this is right down here. I hope this video is still out here. Lawyer outlines multiple examples of illegal voting activity in Georgia. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Now, this came out in December of 2020, okay? The election was in November. This report came out on One American News in December.
2,506 felons voted illegally in Georgia.
Now, keep in mind, Biden only won by like 12,000 votes. Okay? Then you go through this, and if you add it up, it comes out to about 160,000 illegal votes in Georgia.
66,000.
66,000 right there.
248 underage and therefore ineligible people to illegally register to vote before their 17th birthday, when the law requires 17 and a half years old. At least 2,423 individuals to vote who were not listed as registered. 1,043 individuals to cast ballots who had illegally registered to vote using a post office box. 4,926 individuals voted in Georgia who had registered to vote after their Georgia voter registration date, thereby canceling their Georgia voter registration. 10,315 or more individuals to vote who are deceased.
10,000 dead people voting.
By the time of the election. 395 individuals to vote in Georgia who had cast ballots in another state, which is illegal in both states. 15,700 individuals to vote in Georgia who had filed a national change of address with the United States Postal Service prior to November 3rd, 2020. 40,279 individuals to vote who had moved across county lines at least 30 days prior to Election Day and who had failed to properly re-register to vote in their new county after moving, also in violation of Georgia law.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. In violation of Georgia law. Okay, all this stuff that he was talking about is in violation of Georgia law, yet they were counted. And this judge is going to prevent them from reviewing the ballots. That came out to, I added up, it was like 160,000 And again, Biden won Georgia by like 12,000 or 13,000, 10,000, something like that. Far less than 160,000. All right, let's get back to Robert Gouveia and see what he has to say.
A federal judge is ruling the Justice Department cannot have the names and personal contact information of election workers in Georgia's Fulton County during 2020. The Justice Department obtained a grand jury subpoena back in April, seeking that information. Fulton County then asked a judge to quash that subpoena, arguing that it was meant to target, harass, and punish President Trump's perceived political opponents. The president has alleged widespread voter fraud in Georgia's most populous county, claiming that it cost him victory in the state that year.
Yeah, and of course, these judges throughout the entire proceedings that we've covered here have done everything possible to prevent an actual investigation. They are all just sticking by the default assessment, which was, of course, conducted by corrupt people, in my opinion, in my read of it. People like Brian Kemp, who had certain individuals like Vic Reynolds, who was the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's lead, who was supposed to be investigating all of this. He was told by Brian Kemp that you need to be a team player and actually don't investigate anything. And if you do that, I'll reward you. He did. If you remember, we had the senator at the time, David Perdue, who went over to Vic Reynolds, the chief law enforcement person out of the GBI, and said, I have evidence of ballot harvesting and election fraud, and I'd like you to investigate it. Vic Reynolds responded to the sitting senator and said, I can't do that because the state governor, Brian Kemp, told me not to, and I need to be a team player. And then what happened to Vic Reynolds? He became a judge. Go figure. Same situation with the Judge McAfee, the actual judge who was presiding over the Big Fannie Willis RICO prosecution. Before that, he was an inspector in Georgia, also supposed to inspect and investigate the fraud that occurred in Georgia. He did what he was supposed to do, and guess what else happened? He became a judge as well, and then inherited the case against the president. So now we've got yet another judge. This one is William M. Ray, and he dropped this order down. I fully expect this to be appealed and for the case to continue on, or for them to just come back and reissue a new subpoena, maybe one that is a little bit more limited in scope, because the judge says it is overbroad and he calls it staggering. He says, you want all these people? You want names, positions, you want residential email addresses and personal phone numbers. They want everybody who was involved in the process so they can identify problems in the process. And we know there are major problems in the process. We had issues with them not zeroing out the machines before they started counting and not validating the final numbers at the conclusion of the counting. We had hundreds of thousands of ballot images deleted for some reason. We had image files that were retained, shifted and adjusted. You go look at the modification data on many of those ballot images. They were adjusted and changed, or some might say fraudulently covering up the original report recently, as late as 2024, I believe. So there's been ongoing fraud. And when you go ask about it, you can't get any other answer other than this was oversight or administrative error, or there was some process problem, and so on and so forth. So now they want to go identify all the people to see maybe there were chain of custody problems as well. And the judge said, giving us some background, now the DOJ wants personal information on thousands of people. And as we know, Fulton County, just like Maricopa County in Arizona, which is riddled with problems itself, has a bunch of people in there. And there's little doubt that they employ large numbers of people. Now, the DOJ wants this information because they say they're doing law enforcement. But here, he explains the president says that there was election fraud, and he believes that he won in 2020, and now they can investigate this. But it should be noted, he says that while the grand jury is independent, I still get to control it, and I administer oaths, and we constitute the grand jury, and we are the ones who ultimately ensure the process is followed. So is there anything wrong with the DOJ using the grand jury to subpoena these records? He says yes. These records, even if they lead to the DOJ finding people who worked for Fulton that supported their theory that the election was not fair, he says it would not lead to information that could be charged or used to charge anyone else with a viable charge, which is Rich, because he is not the prosecutor. He's a judge. They could easily identify somebody. We got the whole chain of people who were involved, and we say, oh, okay, great. So now we've got this person on camera. We know that these ballots were processed by these people. We can backtrace everything and charge all of these people. He says, though, that is because the statute of limitations has long expired. And once again, this judge is so dishonest. Yeah, the statute of limitations expired for them individually. But if there's a broader conspiracy and there was a more recent overt act where they were literally changing the data in the reserved images, then that is a more recent overt act. And as we know, the conspiracy extends to the most recent overt act. And so that would extend the statute of limitations up until the most recent overt act of the crime. So he says you can't bring the charges. And again, this is how it works, right? You just have to stall it out as long as possible. Then you get a federal judge who is missing a major part of the argument. And he's explaining it right in this paragraph. He says, you couldn't have a viable charge. Does he even know about the criminal charge called conspiracy? The 2020 election occurred back in November 3rd, 2020. Audits and recounts, which were all illegitimate, saying that an investigation all occurred and now it's over. You're done. There's nothing else you can do. Now, the DOJ says it does have a legitimate interest in pursuing criminal crimes, including an alleged failure on the part of Fulton County to preserve the ballot images. This failure to preserve these records would not be barred by the statute of limitations because it could be a conspiracy. But even if these were true, of course, this court offers no opinion. The fact that the focus of the subpoena goes back to 2020 relates back to the original dates. So again, he's missing the entire point. If it's a conspiracy, that conduct, if they were co-conspirators, they're all bundled in to the broad conspiracy. All it would take is one person to cover up for the crimes of the other people. Let's say all their crimes happened in 2020. Okay, fine, we'll concede that. But if then somebody covers it up on their behalf, they're all implicated because they're all part of the conspiracy set. In these hyper-political times in which we currently live, okay, here we go, a lecture. There are sure to be some who disagree with this decision because they believe the allegations of fraud. We do. And believe that light should be brought to those claims. But nothing prevents a continued inquiry here. And Congress could do this. And by the way, Congress should do this. They formed an illegitimate fake January 6th select committee to investigate Fed crimes, and they smeared an entire country on that basis. This should be also equally high in priority from the Republicans. They should form a committee, and then when a federal judge refuses to issue a subpoena, you just have Ron Johnson send one. You just have somebody like Brandon Gill send one. Put him on the committee, have him send one out. And then if people refuse to comply with that, you just prosecute them like they did Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. This is the problem with Congress, is they're just weak and the Republicans don't know how to play the game. And remember that the J6 committee deleted a bunch of evidence as well before the Republicans came back in and got control of all the committees. They deleted everything, just delivered a small subset to the incoming Republican crew. And so the Republicans could do that too if they wanted to and just play by their rules. Now, he also says this result is fitting, that this rejection is fitting, is clear if one considers the alternative, saying this would allow people to subpoena the personal information of citizens. And this happens all the time. Like, what do you think a subpoena is? What do you think Jack Smith did when he went after the cell phone records of sitting senators and sitting congresspeople? So the information here is private and sensitive. And so we can't give that out. Thus, everyone, whether you support the president or not, or whether you think 2020 was rigged or not, should be concerned about the DOJ's ability to utilize the power of the grand jury to get your private info. What is he talking about? The Democratic Party, Jack Smith did this explicitly. So now he's going to say this is unprecedented and we're not going to allow it to happen. The whole thing is a sham. So here's what the subpoena ultimately was for. Individuals who did mail-in ballot reviews, individuals who were assigned to the voter review panel board, individuals assigned to mobile voting locations, other people who actually transported ballots, people who handed the ballot stock or media, other individuals who were contracted to work on the elections, individuals who worked or volunteered for the elections, people who did the risk limiting audit, which other people, the guy who invented the risk limiting audit said we actually couldn't do it sufficiently in this case because we didn't have solid data which we would be able to audit. Can only do the audit if you have an integrity of information. And if you don't, if there's end caps on the counts that aren't legitimate or even validated, then you're analyzing data that is problematic, right? Garbage in, garbage out, and it was garbage in. So how could a risk limiting audit be valid when you have a bunch of images deleted? So Fulton County, of course, is fighting hard, and people like Abby Lowell and Norm Eisen, they come screeching in here to prevent this from happening. They wanted to quash the subpoena. The DOJ filed a cross motion. The court held a hearing back in May. After the hearing, the court was given an affidavit by the DOJ. Bunch of other cases happening here. Rob Pitts, of course, sued. They lost that one. They wanted to have the ballots returned back to them. We saw that a warrant already approved 600 boxes of election records, aka pallets full of ballots to be seized. And Pitts and the Fulton County fraudsters lost that motion. So he's going to run through the history. Grand juries are very sacred and the reach is broad. And now rules of criminal procedures, though, say that I can modify these things. And now Fulton says you have to quash these things. The whole basis of this is essentially privacy rights for the people who ran one of the worst elections in American history based on hindsight. The state election board has been digging into this for years now, and they get no help from the governor. They get no help from Brad Raffensperger, who just got his butt crushed running for higher office. And the DOJ says, we need the list of the people who could be potential co-conspirators so we can do an investigation. But the DOJ loses because the judge says this is an arbitrary fishing expedition, which is just rich. So if you're on the left, you can go fish in senators' phone records and you can fish in House reps' data, but now you can't if you're going to investigate legitimate crimes. So he says there's a statute of limitations. It's all too late. You're prevented from prosecuting these things. And it's essentially, it's almost another standing issue. Remember that if you...
Okay, I've got to jump in here. I was under the impression, I keep hearing all this about the statute of limitations is run out. I thought the statute of limitations was 7 years. I know it varies, but, with something like this, this was 2000 that this happened, okay, and we're in 2006. It hasn't been 6 years yet because it won't be 6 years until November because it happened on election day. But, and these crimes, I guess, if it's crimes, if the government commits a crime, maybe it's only like 2 weeks statute of limitation. I don't know. But I always understood the statute of limitations to be 7 years. What do you think? I'm puzzled here.
Sued before the election back in 2020 to fix the problems that you could see coming. You were denied. Why? It was not ripe. You were suing too soon. It's not even an issue yet. How can you sue over something that hasn't happened? So your claims are dismissed. Then if you sued after the fact, it was too late to sue. You should have sued before. Now latches attach because you didn't actually do your due diligence. The election is over. Huge portions of the cases were dismissed based on standing. Virtually none of the 60 legal cases that they constantly reference actually hit the merits in any substantive form. None of them went to a full trial. And we were working in a very compressed time frame. And so many of those lawsuits of the 60 that they regularly cite were even voluntarily dismissed because election deadlines were over. It came and it's like, okay, it's certified, governor certified it. So we're sending the certificates for the president into Congress now. So it's over. And then they voluntarily dismiss these things. But then the judge says, now, if you do commit the crime and you do sue after the fact and you now win the election in order to actually remedy the wrongs. The people of America voted for President Trump knowing that he was saying the entire time the 2020 election was rigged. We put him into office to go fix our elections. And so then FBI comes in, carries out the will of the American people, voted in democratically. And then they say, sorry, it's too late. Now you're out of time. So no matter what you do, the courts prevent you from getting any justice. Now, the DOJ can't extend the statute of limitations, so it's a technical loss. And it's also, and again, he's really not even talking about conspiracy and whether or not you could bundle all of these people in. And Pitts does not support an extension of the statute of limitations. And the subpoena makes it a high burden on the Fulton County fraudsters. They're going to have to identify all these people. That's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to have a chilling effect that's all unfounded. You're going to get all their information, who literally were working in the election for higher office. And you just think about why our elections aren't held to the same standard as, let's say, a criminal case. If you were charged with a crime, you would be able to get all of the information about every single person who worked for the government, who worked on your case. Everybody, forensic scientists, police officers, anybody who was involved from top to bottom, from beginning to end, you could get their information because they touched your case. But in elections, people who are actually in the inner mechanics of operating the elections are all immune. Those who work and run elections are valued and necessary. And so we don't want their information to go out. And so the subpoena is broad. The power to grant these is broad, but it's not absolute. And so this will be highly burdensome. And so therefore, I am going to grant the motion to quash the grand jury subpoena. It's just another part of the cover-up. So no matter what you do, everything is stopped. All roads run into a dead end, and the motion for in-camera review is moot, directed to terminate this case. No more subpoenas, courtesy of a Trump-appointed judge, William M. Ray, who keeps the actual case locked down. And so we'll see what the DOJ does on this. Of course, I would expect that the investigation continues. They may just resubmit a different subpoena. They may want to appeal this decision, but the inner mechanics of the election continue to be covered up. So we got the pallets full of ballots, but we don't know who actually touched those ballots and who was responsible for processing them, because another federal judge says, sorry, it's too late. And if you would have sued in his courtroom within the statute of limitations, he would have found some other reason to deny access to these things. And it's always the same story. Everywhere we look, we're being run and governed by the judges. Congress is too weak and ineffective to do anything about it. The American people who elected the Trump administration to go fix a lot of these issues are being denied governance, self-governance. The will of the people is being rejected by these judges. And it is a shameful thing. And so, what Congress could do is just form their own committee and issue their own subpoenas. But again, they don't want to do that. They don't want to investigate any electoral fraud because they're the beneficiaries of it. They also got elected in the system. So changing the system might jeopardize their future power. So it's ridiculous. We'll keep our eye on this one. We'll see what the DOJ does in response to this. But this judge, once again, William M. Ray, doesn't even seem like he contemplates the potential crime of a broad conspiracy that would enable the statute of limitations to reflect and relate back to the most recent overt act, which, of course, would moot about 2/3 of his entire argument. So probably why he didn't bring it up, but we'll see if the DOJ does. And the judge is acting as the prosecutor and the judge and the defense all in one to deny access to the records that we need. So we'll see what happens next and keep our...
Okay, there you have it, folks. Got about 2 seconds left in this. Let me go ahead. He just kind of, it's weird the way he ends his videos, just kind of done. All right, let me click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Robert Gouveia. This is the video that I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All righty, let's jump back here. And yeah, I guess LNC, the statute of limitations does kind of vary. I did a search on it after I asked that question, and I guess it goes from 1 to 10 years depending on the crime. But, in a situation like that, they can make up whatever the frick they want. This judge, even though it was appointed by Donald Trump. Now, a lot of these judges were recommended to him in his first term. And, he had to go by some of the recommendations. And the recommendations came from people that were part of the freaking swamp. So, I'm sure he'd got some good ones in there and some that weren't so good, like this cork biter in Georgia. Okay, let me copy the chats into a comment here so they will be a permanent part of this video. There we go. And let me remind you, folks, that these videos that I've shared with you are videos that come directly from the producer. I have the links to the videos in the description box, as well as the links to the producer's channel in the description box. Okay, these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com. where I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. Okay, right here is the video from Robert Gouveia. Right there, here's the video from ACLJ Sekulow. So this information, the link to Murtec.com is in the description box. It's a free site. I don't ask for your name. I don't ask for your email address. I don't ask you to sign up for a newsletter. I don't drop cookies on your computer or have a bunch of ads popping up in your face. It's strictly your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. Okay? So let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comment. Have you heard some of this information that I've actually shared with you tonight on MSNBC or CNN or even Fox or ABC or CBS? Okay? This is information that's hidden from you by our mainstream media. Now, I'd like to share all of this information with you, but unfortunately, I don't have the time to do so, and that's why I put together my Murtec Daily News Wrap-Up playlist. It says I have 23 videos in here. We're going to start off with American Center for Law and Justice, where we left off. I've got some Dr. Steve Turley in here, We the People News, Restored Republic, On the Fringe, Bannon's War Room, Dr. Drew. This I thought was good. I wanted to share with you. Blamed on the flu. Engineer says VAR's records hide vaccine deaths with John Bodine Sr. and Brad Thayer and Chris somebody else. I mean, Dr. Drew. When I first started sharing Dr. Drew, particularly on Murtec.com, I got some comments from somebody saying you got to be careful with him. He pushed the vax. I'm sure there's a lot of doctors that initially pushed the vax, okay, but then when they found out, wait a minute, this isn't right. They came out like Dr. Drew and now is sharing the information that the vax wasn't all that great. Got some information here from Alex Newman with Flyover Conservatives. I always like it when I have two different channels teaming up together. So, folks, this is a lot of great stuff here for you, about 10 or 11 hours worth of information. But as of right now, go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, maybe a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes. Give me time to get this set up in Rumble Studio. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.